Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. Holly the Phantom Painter. The sea breeze swept across the Isle of Wight, carrying with it the scent of salt and the faint whispers of history. Holly Arnold, a painter known for her vivid depictions of the island's landscapes, lived in a quaint cottage perched on a hill. The cottage, with its ivy-clad walls and creaky wooden floors, had been in her family for generations. Its attic, however, remained an enigma, untouched and forgotten. One rainy afternoon, Holly decided to venture into the attic, driven by a sudden urge to explore the mysteries hidden above. She climbed the narrow, winding staircase and pushed open the heavy wooden door, revealing a space thick with dust and cobwebs. Among the forgotten relics of her ancestors, an old, tattered canvas caught her eye. It leaned against the far wall, shrouded in a faded cloth. Curiosity piqued. Holly uncovered the canvas. It was blank, yet it seemed to pulsate with an eerie energy. Intrigued and slightly unnerved, she brought it downstairs to her studio. As she placed it on her easel, she felt a shiver run down her spine. That night Holly couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her mind racing with thoughts of the canvas. At the stroke of midnight, a strange noise echoed through the house. She crept downstairs, drawn by an inexplicable force. To her horror, she found the once blank canvas now adorned with strokes of painted dark, swelling shapes that seemed to dance and writhe. The next morning, Holly examined the painting in the light. It depicted a shadowy figure standing in a forest, the trees twisted and gnarled, their branches like skeletal fingers. The figure's eyes were hollow, and its mouth was twisted into a sinister grin. As Holly stared at it, a sense of recognition washed over her. The forest looked disturbingly familiar. Over the next few days, the painting continued to evolve. Each night, new details emerged. Holly watched in terror as the canvas revealed scenes from her past, scenes she had long buried in the recesses of her mind. The forest was where she had played as a child, where she had experienced her first kiss, and where she had witnessed something she could never forget, the disappearance of her childhood friend, Emily. Emily had vanished without a trace, and the town had searched the forest for weeks. Holly had been the last to see her, but she had never spoken of what she saw. Emily had been playing near an old well when a shadowy figure emerged, pulling her into the darkness. Holly had run, too scared to look back. Now the canvas was forcing her to confront that memory. One night, as she watched the painting, the shadowy figure began to take shape. It wasn't just a dark blur anymore, it was a man with piercing eyes and a cruel smile. Holly's heart raced as she recognized the face. It was her father. Her father had disappeared shortly after Emily. He had always been a distant, cold man, prone to fits of rage. Holly had tried to forget him, to erase his presence from her life. But now he was back, haunting her through the canvas. Determined to get answers, Holly visited the forest. She stood by the old well, its stones covered in moss, and felt a chill in the air. As she stared into the darkness, memories flooded back, her father dragging Emily towards the well, his whispered threats, and the fear that had paralyzed her. Returning home, Holly found the painting had changed again. This time, it showed her father standing at the well, a look of malevolent glee on his face. In his hands, he held a paintbrush. Holly realized with a start that the brush was the same as the one she used in her studio. Desperation clouded her. She had to confront the malevolent force that had plagued her family. That night, she sat before the canvas, paintbrush in hand, and began to paint. She painted the forest, the well, and the shadowy figure of her father. As she painted, the figure seemed to come to life, reaching out from the canvas. Holly felt a presence behind her. She turned, and there he was, her father, his eyes burning with hatred. And you can't escape the past. It will always find you, summoning all her courage. You're not real, you're just a memory, a ghost. With a scream of rage, her father lunged at her. She dipped the brush into the paint and slashed it across the canvas. The figure recoiled, and she continued, her strokes frantic and wild. The figure writhed, its form dissolving into a swirl of colors. As the last stroke of paint landed on the canvas, her father let out a final, anguished cry and vanished. The painting now depicted a serene forest bathed in sunlight, the well hidden by blooming flowers. Holly collapsed to the floor, exhausted. The weight of the past lifted, and for the first time in years she felt free. The canvas, now a symbol of her triumph, remained in her studio as a reminder that she had faced her demons and won. The old cottage on the Isle of Wight returned to its peaceful existence, and Holly continued to paint, her art now infused with a new sense of clarity and purpose. The phantom painter had become the master of her fate, and the shadows of the past no longer held sway over her. Weeks passed, and life began to regain a sense of normalcy for Holly. The oppressive weight of her father's spectre no longer haunted her, and the vibrant colors of her paintings reflected her renewed spirit. Word of her ordeal spread, attracting curious visitors and art enthusiasts to her cottage. One crisp autumn morning, Holly was in her studio when a knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find an elderly woman standing there, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "Are you Holly Arnold?" "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Margaret Wilkins. She had heard of Holly's story and was eager to learn more. "I believe there's more to your family's history than you know," Mrs. Wilkins said. "May I come in?" Holly, intrigued and slightly wary. They settled in the cozy sitting room, where Mrs. Wilkins began to recount her research. She spoke of old records and forgotten tales, of a dark force that had plagued the island for centuries, manifesting through certain families. "Your father was not the first. There have been others, artists mostly, who were consumed by this malevolent entity. It feeds on creativity." Twisting it into darkness, Holly listened intently. The pieces of her past began to fit together in a chilling pattern. The entity had found a way to channel its influence through her father, and now, it seemed, through her. Holly asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Have I defeated it?" Mrs. Wilkins sighed. "You've severed its immediate hold, but the entity is ancient and resilient. It's been weakened, but it's not gone. It may try to return, determined not to let fear rule her life again." Holly asked, "What can I do to stop it for good?" This belonged to one of the first victims, an artist named Eliza Winthrop. She documented her battle with the entity and discovered rituals and symbols that can bind and banish it. Study this. It may hold the key. The pages were filled with intricate drawings and cryptic notes, detailing a struggle that mirrored her own. Among the sketches, Holly found a symbol, a protective sigil that Eliza had used to ward off the entity. Armed with this knowledge, Holly set about inscribing the sigil in her studio, carving it into the walls and painting it on the doors. She felt a growing sense of empowerment as she worked, her fear transforming into resolve. One night, as she put the finishing touches on the sigil, the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. The air grew heavy, and an oppressive silence fell. Holly's breath caught in her throat as the familiar shadowy figure began to materialize on the canvas. "You cannot defeat me," it whispered. "I am eternal." Holly stepped forward. "No, you're a parasite, feeding on fear and misery, but your time is over." With a steady hand, the figure writhed and shrieked, its form distorting as if in agony. Holly continued, her voice firm as she recited the incantation from Eliza's journal. The studio shook, and the air crackled with energy. The figure's cries grew louder, filling the room with a cacophony of despair. But Holly didn't waver. She completed the sigil, and with a final, piercing scream, the shadow exploded into a burst of light, leaving the canvas blank once more. The room fell silent, the oppressive weight lifting instantly. Holly slumped to the floor, exhausted but victorious. The entity was gone, its hold on her shattered. In the days that followed, Holly felt a profound sense of peace. She continued to paint, her work now reflecting a newfound depth and serenity. Her paintings began to sell at an astonishing rate, and she used her success to support other artists who had faced similar struggles. Holly's cottage became a sanctuary for those seeking solace and inspiration. The story of the phantom painter spread far and wide, a testament to the power of resilience and the triumph of light over darkness. And as for Holly, she knew that the shadows of the past could no longer claim her. She had faced the malevolent force and emerged stronger, a beacon of hope for all who heard her tale. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had a great day.